Hi, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about why aren't you getting things done. Perhaps time is passing and you're looking back and you just notice you haven't done all those things that you meant to get done. It's really common, and we talk about laziness, we talk about procrastination, we talk about avoidance. You've got to remember, if you've watched any of my videos, it's all about choice. I don't believe in laziness, I don't believe in procrastination, I believe in making choices. And if you don't get things done, it's because you're making a choice not to do them. So I'm going to be unpacking some of that today, and hopefully giving you some ideas that will transform your ability to get things done. First of all, I'm going to need to go into a bit of psychology, so stick with me, and then I'm going to come back and talk about what you can practically be doing right now. So when I'm saying it's all about choice, what I'm talking about is returning everything to a conscious, adult appraisal of the situation and then making empowered choices to build a good life for yourself. A lot of us don't do that. A lot of us ask others to make choices for us. We might ask the people around us and rely on their advice and their guidance, and we'll understand what they want us to be doing, and then we'll choose to go along with it. We might choose to do what we're advised to do by professionals, by the government, by people we see on TV. But often, the thing that we're using to make our choices is unconscious habits and processes and behaviours that we built up a long time ago. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So when we're young, we're growing up with a family, and the family is normal. It's only much later that we begin to realise how weird our families were. But when you're small, and throughout this video I'm going to be talking about the perspective of you when you were a little kid, let's say 5 or 7 years old. You're surrounded by these people who are much bigger than you, they seem to know how everything works, and whatever the situation was at home, that's normal. That's the way the world is meant to be. So you adjust to that. There would have been perils, there would have been dangers of some kind when you were young. For some of us, those are actual physical threats. So that could be not having enough food, it could be not being in a safe physical environment. It could have been a violent parent. It could have been a number of threats when we were young. But it can also be simply manipulation and emotional danger. So if you've got a parent who was manipulative and who needed you to be something, then you develop patterns around that. Also, when there's a lot of stuff, let's say you grew up in a wealthy family, often other things are missing, more subtle things are missing. So there might have been a lot of money, but perhaps there wasn't a lot of love, or there wasn't a lot of emotional connection, there wasn't a lot of dialogue, there wasn't a lot of spiritual fulfillment. Our parents are always doing their best. I often have to remind clients of that fact. We'll be exploring how they developed some kind of unhealthy pattern when they were young, and I'll say, look, your parents were doing their best, but who knows what they're doing as a parent? Maybe after you've had a few, you begin to work out some kind of way of doing it well. But we're all just trying to make it up as we go along. So your parents did their best, but they will have made mistakes, and that's what we're talking about here. Your environment when you were young was lacking in some way. It was either actually dangerous or simply as a child you perceived that there were threats. So you develop some habits or behaviours which are there to keep you safe. They're there to keep you safe when you were small. So remember, we're talking about you when you're 5, 7 years old. You're a small person. You don't really understand a lot about the world. So you begin to develop these patterns and behaviours and responses to things that are designed to keep you safe. Fast forward to now, those are still there. So you will have an adult conscious awareness on some level, and you'll have some kind of idea about what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and what you want to get done. You are also carrying these old patterns from when you were young, and they can come into conflict. So if you want to make a better life for yourself, that's going to require rocking the boat. It's going to require risk and change, the unknown, possible risk of loss, and these patterns from when you were young may well step in at that point and go, no. The important thing is to be safe. And so they will stop you. They will subtly manipulate your choices and your behaviours and your feelings, and you won't get things done. Perhaps you'll have a strong emotional or mental response that stops you doing it. But more often, it's sort of an unconscious, gentle manipulation away from taking action to just doing that other thing instead. So don't take the big action. Don't apply for the job. Don't have the difficult conversation. Don't do those difficult things that will lead to uncertain results and possible danger. And instead, focus on scrolling through Instagram or some kind of other social media, or calling a friend, or watching TV, or something which is safer, which doesn't rock the boat, doesn't change the situation. So there's this tension within you. between a part of you which is now, adult, conscious, making good choices, and a part of you which is much older and is responding to threats that no longer exist. But the feelings are still there. You're no longer a little person. You're no longer looking up at these adults and going, hang on, what do I need to do in order to be safe in this situation? But the feeling of being in that situation is still alive. This is really common. It happens for a lot of people, and it takes a long time to do something about. So let's come on to what can you do about this. I'm hoping that by just listening to me talking about this will have flagged some things up for you. Those things you did, that memory from childhood, actually that thing about your family, which means that you always had to behave in that particular way. But this stuff takes time. Don't feel like you need to overcome all this straight away. Beginning to become conscious of it is the beginning. And with all of these things, with any act of personal development and change of yourself, it always begins with research. It's always beginning to observe what's going on. So start jotting some stuff down. What was my childhood environment like? What patterns did I need to develop in order to be safe then? And then how are they affecting my life now? If you don't address this stuff, what you end up having is just repeated patterns throughout your life. You'll find the same thing just keeps happening over and over in a slightly different ways, different times, but basically the same thing is just happening repeatedly throughout your life. So relationships always end in the same way, or jobs always go wrong in the same way. I'm never happy because the same thing. A lot of this is because there's this tension between what you want now, but these really strong impulses that you developed when you were young. So begin noticing what they might be. Where did they come from? How do they manipulate your behavior? And then begin having a relationship with them. So what doesn't work is to say, okay, that stuff from my past, it's stupid, stop doing it. That doesn't help because those impulses are important to some aspect of you. They believe that they're there to keep you safe. They believe that they're really important to your well-being and your safety and your future. So simply saying, don't do that, doesn't help. You need to understand them. There is a thing called self-parenting, which I strongly recommend that everybody kind of looks into and understands. There's a book called Self-Parenting by a man called John Pollard, which is a great little book, just a whole bunch of exercises for developing a dialogue with your inner child. So it's a slow process of learning how these behaviors are manipulating your choices and then choosing to make empowering choices based on now, based on what you know to be true as an adult, how you want things to go, the life you want to build. It's about shifting all responsibility and choice and power back from your unconscious behaviors, other people, society at large, what everyone else thinks you should be doing, and returning all that power to you and making really empowered choices about where you want your life to be going. I realise that that's not a 1, 2, 3 step, this is how to change your life. This is much deeper than that. This is the kind of work that takes months, years, a whole lifetime of work to slowly unravel, unpick. But every step along the way, you become more empowered, more conscious, more capable of making empowered and good choices for yourself. So it's totally worthwhile. It's another reason that I think a commitment to lifelong personal development and growth is just crucial. It's just so important for each of us. I hope this has been interesting and useful for you. Have a reflection on how this stuff is interplaying in you. And if you've got any questions, then of course, feel free to get in touch and we can have a conversation about how this stuff is actually working in you. Hit subscribe, of course. I'm making these videos all the time and it's great to have you along for the journey. Like the video, leave me a comment, leave me a question. What would you like me to make a next video about? And come back next time. Thanks.